Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to Astrocraft. My name is Richard, and this is our very first video on this channel. So, if you're new here, and we are going to explore astrology the way it is meant to be learned, clean, practical, and rooted in the classic books. So, today, what we will deal with the Prashna side of astrology, which is, I believe, it is very less explored in YouTube. So it is very important that everyone should be aware of the various Prashna methods and the secrets associated with the Prashna side of astrology. So what is Prashna? So actually, Prashna works on real time chart. That means what makes it powerful and sharp is basically it depends on the time when the query is asked. If the query is asked at 11:11 or 11:12, so that moment, the Prashna astrologer will create a chart based on that, the planetary alignment at that specific time. And based on that chart, the astrologer will deduce the results. And this is similar to how the birth charts or the natal charts are created in traditional astrology. But the difference is you don't need to fully depend upon the traditional ways of finding ascendants or dasha systems or transits in Prashna. Prashna is a quick yes or no answer to that question. Prashna has a query, and it has a timing, and you create a birth chart based on that, and you interpret the results based on that chart at that moment. It should be basically yes or no. It's a probability question. So, since this is our opening video, so let's start with something fundamental, right? So, what we do is we will go through a few classic books, and I will try to condense that book into a specific YouTube video series, and we will start as with the series one in this video, and we will continue deciphering the books in the upcoming videos. So the book which I'm referring to is the Prashna Astrology, written by Kadalikudi Nadeshta Shastri. Okay. So the book we will try to decipher in this upcoming videos is Prashna Arudaphala, and that has a detailed methods and specific detailing with respect to planets and charts on how a query can be answered based on the planets and rashis, and which is pretty much detailed. And this specific book is used as a base for multiple different Prashna methods like Prashna Marga in Kerala and Jamakola Rudam, which is very popular in Tamil Nadu. So let's start with the basics. Let's start with how the base methods are explained in this book, in this series, and from there we will explore two different methods. So let's make our basics so strong. So uh, let's start with something fundamental, and this is the opening video. And what I'm trying to convey here is the second chapter of the Prashna, and we'll try to brief whatever is mentioned in that book. So, so let's start with the basics like planetary relationships in Prashna astrology. So, in traditional astrology, we have a relationship between the planets, like Mercury and Moon are not friends. Similar way, Prashna also has a relationship between the planets, and that relationship also corresponds to the relationship between the planets and the rashis. So, in Prashna, planets act like best friends. Some behave like enemies, and some just neutral. So let's start with the basic chart. So what I will do is I will display a South Indian based chart on your screen, and we will start explaining based on this screen. So it will be easier for you to understand what exactly is mentioned. Okay. So let's start with it. So here you can see a basic South Indian chart, and usually this South Indian chart is prepared with 12 squares and in this specific format. And you have the Aries here, Taurus, like Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And here you can see the lord of each sign, each Rashi. For Aries, it's Mars. For Taurus, it's Venus. Gemini, it's Mercury, and so on. These are all the basics which is used in the same way as in Vedic astrology, because there is no difference between the lords in the Prashna as well. So I hope everyone is clear on this and the charting. And to be specific, we are not using this chart to find the answer of the query. So this chart we will use to learn the basics. Okay, so how to create a chart, how to answer a query, that will be taught in the latest part of the series. Let's start with the basics first. Let's start with how we can figure out figure out to answer a specific question, and how to go from step by step, step one, step two, step three, and so let's start with the initial. Okay, let's start with the relationships. Let's start with the Mars. Okay, so with respect to Prashna, the Mars, for Mars, Venus and Mercury are friends. So if you place the Mars signal here, Mercury and the Venus. So this is the relationship between the Mars and Venus and Mercury. As you can see, Venus and Mercury are friends to Mars. And this might be different from Vedic astrology, but it's with respect to Prashna and how that relationship between the planets and the rashis changes based on the Prashna. It's a different sort of relationship between these planets. It's not like the traditional Vedic relationships. It's sort of like more of like a behavioral relationship in these planets. Now, based on the Lord of the Rashis, for example, here Taurus, the Lord is Venus, and the Gemini, the Lord is Mercury, and the Virgo, the Lord is Mercury, and the Libra, the Lord is Venus. So, since Mars is friendly to Venus and Mercury, so Mars is comfortable in Taurus, Gemini, Virgo, and Libra. So, for example, if you are if the query is on a specific time, and at that specific time the Mars is in the Taurus, that means good results are more probable, because this is a beneficial alignment. Correct. That's the first thing. I mean, there are a lot of other techniques and methods and details to be used to reach the conclusion, but this can be taken as the first step, maybe the initial checks, right? Whenever there is a question raised, and an astrologer will find the timing and create a chart based on that. And the first thing he might or he can look into is the plant relationships, where the ascendant lord is placed. If he is placed in a friendly house, that's one good sign, at least point plus 1 points. So we explained the Mars. So Mars is a fiery planet, and Mars get well with Venus and Mercury, which is the and rest everything. Mars is for Mars. It's not a good position. Now with Venus. So with Venus, Venus is a very friendly planet with respect to Prashna astrology. So Venus is friendly to Mercury, Mars, Sun, and Jupiter. So that means Venus is friendly to Gemini. Venus is friendly to uh, Aries. Venus is friendly to its own house. Venus is friendly to friendly to Sun, Venus is friendly to Mercury, Venus is friendly to Venus, Venus is friendly to Mars, Venus is friendly to Jupiter, Venus is friendly to Jupiter. So here you can see Venus is specifically considered as a positive planet for at least in the for Prashna. So apart from Saturn, most placements are very well for Venus, and Venus is if the Venus is the ascendant lord during the Prashna query, that's considered as a good sign. And the next is Jupiter. The Jupiter is friends with all planets, but here one twist is Jupiter doesn't like Mars. Okay, if you Mars is placed with Jupiter, like Aries or Scorpio, then that's not a good placement during that time. So if a personal chart is being made and is ascendant lord, or is there the connection between Jupiter and Mars, or Jupiter is placed in Scorpio or Aries, that's not considered as a well placement. And point to be noted, this is not the only one uh, uh, list at the astrologer checks. So, as we explained before, we have a South Indian based chart here, and you can see the lord of each 12 houses here mentioned. And here we have our 9 planets, including Rahu and Ketu. And let's start with the planetary relationship first. So let's start with the sun. Okay. So the main point here is, as I explained before, this relationship is different from how the traditional astrology, traditional Parashara methods define the planetary relationships. Here might be a bit of difference because the intent here is to answer a specific query. Intent is not to create a birth chart of a specific individual. So based on that, there is there is a different way of looking into the planetary relationships here in the Prashna, which also makes it very unique in this aspect. So for Sun, if I place Sun in any of the uh, eh, uh, start. So let's start with the Sun. For Sun, it is mentioned that Jupiter is a friend of Sun. Okay, so if I place the Sun in Jupiter, it's a friend, and if I place Sun in Sagittarius, it's a friend, right? So the clear friendship is between Sun and Jupiter. Sun is considered as a king in astrology, and Jupiter is considered as a devaguru, right? So the relationship between these two are always beneficial. So if you have a specific query and the chart is it's found that the Jupiter is placed with respect to Sun, or Sun is placed in the Jupiter signs, that is considered as a positive aspect. So so the answer to the query or the prashna is based on multiple factors, but this is also one of the factors. It's like sort of we can consider like a point system, right? I mean, this is one positive points to you. So if a specific question like, will I get that job, right? And somehow your ascendant lord or is connected, your sun is connected to Pisces or Sagittarius. That's a certain positive points to that question. And a point to be noted is this is not the only thing which a Prashna astrologer will consider. This is one of the things, right? Okay. For Sun, as I explained, Jupiter is a friend, so Pisces and Sagittarius considered as a favorable placement. Now, let's consider Moon. So for Moon, the friends are Jupiter and Mercury. So that means the Pisces is a friend, and Sagittarius is a friend, and Gemini is a friend. Also, Virgo is a friend, and this 4 out of 12 rashis is considered as a favorable placement for the moon. So again, for example, your ascendant lord or ascendant is somehow connected ascended Lord is Moon and is somehow connected to Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, or Sagittarius, that's considered as a favorable placement with respect to Prashna astrology. And that's for Moon. And let's go with Mars. Okay, so Mars is bit of enemy planet with respect to Prashna, because for Mars, uh, cut start. So let's start with the Mars. So for Mars, Venus and Mercury are friends. That means Taurus is a friend, Gemini is a friend, Virgo is a friend, and Libra is a friend. So these four out of the 12 rashis is considered as a favorable placement for the Mars. And if it is placed in Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, that's not considered as a favorable placement. It's straightforward. It's your relationship with the planets decides your relationship with the rashis, right? I mean, the lord of the rashis are considered for the relationship that, because for Taurus, Venus is a lord. So how the Venus and the Mars relationship is there, based on that, that specific placement is considered. So next, going to Mercury. For Mercury, all are friends except Sun. So if Mercury is placed in the Sun, that's not considered as a favorable sign, because rest everything is considered as favorable. But for Mercury, if it is somehow connected to Leo or Sun, it's not favorable for that specific query. And for Jupiter, all planets except Mars are friends. So if Jupiter is placed in Aries or Scorpio, that's not considered as a favorable placement, and rest everything is considered as a positive for Jupiter. So again, as I said, what we need to consider is the lord of the specific rashis. For Aries, the lord is Mars. For Scorpio, the lord is Mars. So if Jupiter is connected to these two, that's not considered as a favorable sign. And for Venus, and Venus is a pretty friendly planet with respect to Prashna system, because Venus is friendly to Mercury, Mars, Sun, and Jupiter. So except Saturn, Venus is having a positive relationship with all of the 12 rashis. So if Venus is placed in Gemini, that's a friendly placement, and if Venus is placed in Virgo, that's a friendly placement. And similarly, for Mars, Sun, and Jupiter are friends. And if Venus is placed in Aquarius or Capricorn, that's not considered as a beneficial placement. And now let's go to Saturn. And Saturn, Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus are friends. So if it is placed in Mercury, that's a good. And if it is placed in Taurus, that's a good sign. And if it is placed in Jupiter, like Pisces and Sagittarius, that's a positive sign. And that's how the whole relationship between the planets are defined. And I hope I explained the relationships between the planets in a clear manner, and you are clear with the relationships and how that relationship is getting figured out, and how that affects the probability of the query. Hi.